You refer to the vision not as a let's fix the situation, but change the way the world works and create an inclusive society. This reminded me of the TED Talk with the CEO from Kids Included Together, Tori Dunlap. She talked about how even after institutionalization ended, people with disabilities were and are still being kept separate with special classes, special events, and other things targeted just towards people with disabilities. Too often are people with disabilities viewed through the medical model, seen as a problem that needs fixing, and that leads people to pity those with disabilities. When you mentioned creating an inclusive society, it seemed to fit with the model that Tori focused on, the biopsychosocial model. Changing people's mindsets from the medical model to the biopsychosocial model is a long road, but it will lead to this vision that the protesters had, creating an inclusive society. I also thought it was a great connection to the motivation behind this vision coming from the unalienable rights in the US Constitution. These were the same rights that were a driving factor in the civil rights movement. We know that the civil rights and disability rights are closely connected. One of the first lawsuits that people consider to be a part of the disability rights movement is Brown versus the Board of Education. And with a further connection of the ADA to the Emancipation Proclamation, the bond between the two movements is clear. You mentioned teaching about the changes in these issues. Because of the strong connection between disability rights and civil rights, I think it would be meaningful to teach students about both of these movements at the same time. I know when I was in middle school and high school, we only focused on civil rights. By teaching children about the disability rights movement, we can help change the mindset to that biopsychosocial model that would lead to a more inclusive society, especially one that did not just make changes to focus on the letter of the law. By changing mindsets, perhaps more people would act more within the spirit of the law. The School Leader's Guide to Special Education mentions that ADA requires districts to ensure that all school events are physically accessible to students with disabilities. This is a case where the letter of the law can be followed, but not the spirit. Many buildings have ramps or elevators, but only in one spot in that far corner of the building. Technically, it is accessible, but it requires people with disabilities to go out of their way. This more closely follows the medical model and separating children with disabilities from their peers. To create a fully inclusive society, we have to help change the mindset of people towards that biopsychosocial model, and that begins with educating children. You finish by saying that when we follow the letter of the law, which we're federally required to do, it is important to remember where it came from and the vision behind it. This is totally true, and why it's so important to not just follow the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law, which was guided by this vision towards a totally inclusive society.